John, I shouldn't be concerned about May baseball when my team's 5,000 games above 500 and 10,000 games in front of the next closest team. But yeah, it gets a little concerning. All right, let's tackle the Phillies thing.
You're concerned?
No, I'm joking, really. What to make of the weekend?
You?
Well, what to make of the weekend? So let's get into it. Let's start with yesterday. Obviously, an ugly game. I mean, that was one of the more ugly games we've seen this year from the Phils. Alec Bohm with 3 different defensive miscues, 2 of which are officially errors. Rojas throws to the wrong base. Taijuan, just being Taijuan, that guy is a really irritating part of the Phillies. He just is. It's like every 5th day you get an irritant. Normally they win because normally they score enough, and he pitches to an inflated ERA, but it doesn't matter because they score and win. Yesterday, not as much. John, what'd you make of yesterday? What'd you make of the weekend? Take a bite out of it. And again, everyone at 215-592-9494, how you assess what we saw over the last couple of days.
It got sloppy to camera.
Yeah, it did.
When you got Ranger up there just sort of slopping it around, that's unusual. After feeling like we were on top of the world, sweeping 7 series out and dominating the way that we were, then we lost that Rocky series.
Yep.
And afterwards, Ben Davis actually pointed out, like, hey, did the Rockies figure something out with their advanced scouting? It didn't feel like they had to move the whole series to catch anything that we hit. So I'm asking myself, can other teams do this? We lost that series. It was the first time in a while. How do the Phillies combat this? And that's what I'm thinking. And then it really hit me. Are we just going to be taking on the best swing that every team we're facing can muster?
Yeah, there's probably some of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're getting everyone's best swing now. We're just not sharp right now to get it done well enough, and we need to be better. We can be better. We must be sharper, and I expect that they will be. The Phillies need to expect everyone's best from here forward. They are the team to beat in all of baseball. Still, they have the most wins in all of baseball. Yeah. They need to, lock in to play that way. It's just been too sloppy.
Yeah. So,
and by the way, Schwarjune or Schwoon. Yeah, I think it should be Schwoon.
No, it shouldn't be Schwoon. That's the opposite.
Schwoon. Oh, you're right, because swoon is a bad thing.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, Schwarjune is on its way. Schwarjune just sort of got a precursor yesterday. We saw him go yard.
Yeah, that was a bomb.
It's coming, and that will help lift us.
Look, all right, so obviously with everyone, you can weigh in on the Phils from the weekend at 215-592-9494. I mean, look, this is a different kind of season, I think, for all of us. The reality is that a 3 out of 4 loss last May or the prior May would have been a major issue. This is obviously not a major issue. Okay, let's be very clear. By the way, this is the kind of thing 2 years ago that cost Joe Girardi his job. I mean, they were limping going in June, and then he got clipped, and that was the end of Joe Girardi. But that was 2 months of bad baseball. That was what had led up to a 21-29. Last year, of course, 22-29. This is totally different. So it's a little bit, I think, different for all of us to react to a team that struggles in a brief period of time after 2 months of excellence. First off, this is really the first bumpy stretch. And I don't even know if 4 games can truly be called a stretch, but okay, I'll go there. First bumpy stretch the Phillies have had since the first week. Since the first week.
It's only the 3rd time this year that they've lost back-to-back.
Yeah, I mean, so, there's a lot going right here. Now, Taijuan, if I had to say a thing, because I view this whole season, I think at this point, through the prism of, all right, what does it mean come October? Mm-hmm. And the only thing to me that really stood out as it related to yesterday come October was if there's an injury in the rotation. And because the only way Taijuan Walker touches the ball in October, if someone gets injured. By the way, it may require 2 pitchers to get injured. I mean, it really might. I mean, it really might require 2, because maybe Turnbull goes in there. Maybe if a guy gets injured in the next month and a half, Dave Dombrowski makes a move before the trade deadline for a pitcher. Like, Taijuan Walker.
Or you've got other guys like Strom who can go longer.
Yeah, but he's not going to start. He's not going to start. I mean,
well, at that point, you know what? Like, I don't trust Taijuan Walker, period.
Well, that's the problem.
Like, I'm just looking for other possibilities.
I know. So, look, everyone at 215-592-9494 to weigh in. Obviously, Colorado and then the Giants. Phil's back at it later tonight. Went through a bunch of their best starters and, only won 1 game. Seltzer, biggest takeaway from this weekend is what?
Has nothing to do with the Phillies. I mean, the biggest takeaway from the weekend is that Ronald Acuna is done for the season.
Yeah.
It just is. And look, the 3-4 was frustrating. The last two games felt like the first time in like over a month that the Phillies just lost. Like they didn't fight back and lose an extra innings or like lose on like they did on Friday night where, they were down to their last pitch and the Rockies hit a home run and tie it and end up winning. Yep. Like it felt like the last two games they just got beat. And that's okay. It's okay. Right. Like they're 38-17. The single biggest thing that happened this weekend is Ronald Acuña is done for the season. That is by far, without a doubt, the most consequential thing that happened.
No, that's right. And I'll say this. That, to me, as much as that has an impact on the regular season, I mean, you can make the case the greatest impact it has is on the postseason. Now look, credit to that organization. They won a World Series without him a couple of years ago. He'd gotten injured, obviously, in 2021, missed the whatever it was, second half of the season or something. They still won the World Series. So I wouldn't completely count them out. And obviously their general manager and their ownership group, I mean, they're aggressive. They're excellent. They do great things for them. And so obviously it's not inconceivable they make a move to try to stabilize things and still field a tremendous baseball team come October and, theoretically the next 4 months. But the reality is that is the biggest thing from this weekend. I mean, think of it this way. What the Braves have already suffered with their best pitcher out and their star hitter out is essentially the equivalent of if the Phillies in April had lost Zach Wheeler and the Phillies in late May lose Bryce Harper.
Right.
I mean, they've lost the Wheeler-Harper thing. That's really what we're talking about.
You're right.
That's what we're talking about.
Exactly
it's like
correct.
they lost Wheeler and Harper.
And people will make the argument, Braves fans will make the argument, you know what, we lost Acuna before, we won the World Series before. But this is different. Now you've got a Phillies team that is magnificent. Now, and we truly are magnificent. With the recent, shortfalls considered, we are still magnificent. We are so much better than we've been. The Braves now, they've fallen too far. It's just they're not even close without those two megastars.
It's a big chunk. It is. So obviously your reaction from the weekend, 215-592-9494. John, does the Bohm thing worry you? So, for those that don't know, Alec Bohm yesterday with 2 errors. He also had a third defensive miscue where just a little bit slow in the transfer, fielding the ball and throwing it first, and the guy's safe. That one was ruled a hit. The other 2 were ruled errors. Obviously, they had an impact on the game. John, does it worry you?
Alec Bohm has been spectacular.
He has been.
At the plate. He's been so much improved as a third baseman all year long. We've been marveling at, hey, we don't even have to worry about Alec Bohm out there at third base anymore. Well, this reminded us he's not perfect, but no one is. Like, sometimes you're going to have an off day. That was certainly an off day.
Look, I'm not ready
He had a real bad day.
Yes,
it was as bad as they get.
Yep.
And let's see what happens. Let's see how he rebounds.
Look, here's the thing. I am not worried about it. I mean, look, is it in my mind? I always think in a moment like this, like, is a guy going to have a situation where it gets in his head and then affects his performance moving forward? I think if the one 2 years ago didn't, then this one won't. I mean, think about that. 2 years ago, I mean, the fear was that night, like, this dude might struggle to get back on the rails in the next game, the next week, the next month.
His career. That felt like it could have been like, let's look back at when Alec Bohm's career ended, that night in Philadelphia.
Yeah, like when Ben Simmons didn't take the dunk, and everything changed in his whole career. And granted, he had shown wussness before, but not doing the dunk. Wussness.
I like that,
That's
too.
a new one.
That's good.
Thank you.
I like that a lot. It's the name of the Ben Simmons story.
Thank you. Alec Bohm got right back on the horse 2 years ago.
Wow. That's the title of the book right there. Wussness.
Look, we'll take your calls. I'm not worried about Alec Bohm. I mean, he said all the right things after the game. He handled it so well 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, he should be fine. They should be fine. But I will say, hopefully one of the 4 main pitchers doesn't get injured, because otherwise you might have a Taijuan Walker in the playoffs. And he really is ineffective. And I will say they do have a Taijuan problem. And it's not so much is it going to cost them the division problem, because I don't think it will, although it theoretically could. The problem is, how does an organization handle a guy with 2.5 years left on his contract, still owed about $50 million? That's not a small problem. But look, that's a Dave Dombrowski, John Middleton issue. They can figure out at what point they want to just write him a check to go away, trade him to some team and eat a bunch of money and get back a bag of balls as nonsense prospects just to get this guy off their hands. But look, when you make as many moves as they do, at some point you're gonna have one that really doesn't work out. I mean, listen, Pat Gillick had a couple of them. You know, I remember who was that guy, Seltzer, from the Mariners? Big hefty guy, Freddie Garcia. Remember?
Oh yeah, Freddie Garcia.
Like,
sure,
he stunk.
Yeah,
Adam Eaton stunk.
Sure,
but it didn't slow the train down from establishing an era of excellence and obviously winning a World Series in 2008. So you got one of them on your hands. Like, I don't think anyone thinks at this point Taijuan Walker, corrects, and all of a sudden you start getting like a quality pitcher. I think that's gone. I really do. I think that's gone. But doesn't mean they can't win big anyway.
What his velocity is significant, and we can talk to Ben about this later.
Yeah.
It's nowhere close to where it was even last year.
It just
something
looks like,
is wrong.
It looks like he just throws meatballs up there and then
yes, it
does.
Right?
That's
and
everything's elevated, and it's all 2 miles an hour slower than it was last year.
Put me in, Coach.
Tell me about it.
I'm ready to hit off that guy.
I could hit him.
All right, look, your reaction to the weekend,
Says a
what
lot.
we saw from the Phils, Colorado, the Phils and the Giants. Again, 3 of 4 since our last show. 215-592-9494.
I couldn't really hit him.
Say that again?
I could not
we didn't
really
think
hit
so.
Taijuan
He would
Walker.
strike you out 100 times out of 100.
Absolutely, I know that.
Seltzer, he'd walk him at some point.
But you're right. Good point.
Maybe if I don't swing,
That's correct.
I could get on first.
Plus, you could do that thing. You could do that crouch down thing. Pete Rose and
I
Ricky
would try
Henderson
that.
would do.
I'd see what I could get away with. Oh, yeah, shrink
by
the
the way,
strike
I'm
zone.
annoyed
There's
with-
no way he can pitch me strikes.
I'm annoyed with some of the balls and strikes this weekend. Some high strikes were called against the Phils, including one against Schwarber. I don't know what night that was. It might have been Friday, where I thought the ball was high.
So can we get some
No.
mechanical
You know what?
robotic help yet?
No.
It's just an earbud.
Yeah, it's more than that. The consternation's good. All right, look, your reaction to the whole thing. Phils lose 3 or 4, but the sun is going to shine today, and they'll play another game tonight, and chances are a win because they typically do. Look, your reaction to it all, 215-592-9494, 94 WIP.